So we've talked plenty about Donald Trump in the debate, but I don't think we've talked enough, or people have talked enough, about Kamala Harris and what she said or did not say during the debate. There was a Reuters focus group, 10 people, 10 undecided voters. 6 went for Trump after, 3 went to Kamala. And even Reuters, who's as far left and as biased as David Muir, admitted that Kamala didn't say anything and she didn't convince people about any policies that would sway people to her side. What did you get from her performance?
Yeah, well, I think that's right. Listen, all of the rehearsed lines, all of the flowery language, all of the attacks on Donald Trump really doesn't solve the problem that the American people are having right now, which is that life is unaffordable, and this is an unsustainable issue right now for a lot of people. You can barely make ends meet, and a lot of people can't make ends meet. They're going into credit card debt. They're having a lot of issues right now, and just because you attacked Donald Trump and because you rehearsed your lines with David Muir and Lindsey Davis and executed those lines doesn't give people the confidence that you're going to be able to do the job that's necessary to make their life better. And ultimately, that's what this is about. You know, when we elect a president, we are actually hiring someone for a job. And I always tell people you have to look at this almost as you're hiring someone for a company. We actually have had Donald Trump in this position and in this role before, and he did very well at that job. You would probably want to hire that person all day, every day, if you could hire them again. And then on the other side of things, you had Kamala Harris, who's like the person who shows up to, you know, the meetings every Monday, unprepared, hasn't looked at her notes, really is sort of just kind of talking in circles around things. And that's a lot of what I think the American people saw at the debate on Tuesday night. And so, yeah, you look at polling like that, especially with independents, which is obviously who we know decides elections, and it was not a successful debate by any stretch for Kamala Harris. And in fact, I would say it was a disastrous debate for ABC News. The credibility lost by ABC with that debate is really shocking. And I think a lot of people, you know, you watch the CNN debate, and I'll give credit where credit is due. CNN was very fair in the debate that they hosted between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. ABC News, what a disgrace and what a disservice to the American people. The opportunity to actually showcase two candidates, their policy positions, and how they would enact policy as president. And we got barely any of that because it was a 3-on-1 cage match against Donald Trump.
Yeah, David Muir, I'm so fascinated by this guy. He stayed relatively quiet as he's the most watched news anchor in the country. I've never watched the show ever, but it's great. But totally exposed himself. I mean, goodness. I mean, I think we know where David Muir. Like, what about when Trump brought up Springfield? He's like, oh well, I just happen to have a quote here that I printed out from the city manager of Springfield. Like, he didn't ask about Springfield. He just thought that if Trump brings it up, I'm ready to fact check him on the spot. What is that?
Yeah, well, and then the most basic fact checks on Kamala Harris weren't done at all. They did absolutely none. They let her get away with lying consistently about this. She did it multiple times. Project 2025, the Charlottesville hoax, her stance on abortion, the actual abortion laws, her gun buyback, mandatory gun buyback laws, the things that Donald Trump actually laid out in that debate in terms of Kamala Harris's radical record and how she would act likely as president, and the things that at least we know she said in the past. They never for 1 second fact-checked her on, yeah, you're right, the niche issue of Springfield, Ohio. Oh, imagine that. I just happened to have that on the ready. It was ridiculous. and I think that that's what the American people saw when they watched that, is it truly, truly was 3-on-1. And unfortunately, you know, Donald Trump had to be on defense the whole time. And instead of doing the job of a debate, which is to, you know, tell the people of the country, here's how these two would be as president, we didn't get any of that. And shame on ABC. It was a disgrace. Yeah.
So we talked about this yesterday, and it pops up from time to time. This is percent who are Democrat or Republican. Married men, 59% Republican. Unmarried men, 52% Republican. Married women, 56% Republican. All right, so we got Republicans in all those groups. But unmarried women, 68% Democrat. So on a different day, we could talk about why that is. But I think most important for the co-chair of the RNC is, what do we do about that in the next 2 months? What can be said to outreach to an unmarried woman who vast majority inclined to vote Democrat?
Yeah, well, listen, and I think we do have to talk to them. We can't just shut off and say, "Oh, we've lost this group. We're never going to get them back." Taylor Swift threw her endorsement out. Like, let's just pack up shop and move on. And by the way, I don't really understand the timing of that either. It seems like maybe they knew immediately that it wasn't a great debate for Kamala, so they were like, "Roll out the Taylor Swift endorsement. We got to get it out tonight." I don't know, but okay. But listen, we do have to engage with everybody. We have to go all across this country. And I think especially for women in this demographic, you know, they may not be thinking about becoming mothers yet. They may not be thinking about getting married yet. They may not even be thinking about buying a home yet. But if you are a person who one day has that in your future and you want those things, there's only one choice in this election, and it's Donald Trump. You know, when you talk about the wage gap and the inequality in wages in this country, it was Donald Trump when he was in office who actually you saw the biggest wage growth with the lowest income earners in this country under his leadership. And those sorts of things, I think, are what women a lot of times, especially in that age demographic, want to hear. I think back to when I was that person once upon a time. And I think overall, we have to continue to contrast for everyone out there, truly, your life when Donald Trump was there versus your life now that Kamala Harris is actually there. And I think we have to continue to make sure people understand this is not about who you want to have in your wedding party. This is about who is going to keep you safe. This is about who is going to give you the upward trajectory in your future career and the ability to achieve anything in America. Because I'll tell you one thing, if we go into a recession, you don't get those opportunities. If we continue to have an influx of illegal immigrants pouring into this country, you don't get those opportunities. And I think we have to have real conversations with people about the implications of what it is that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have already done to this country, but obviously will continue if she remains in the White House. And by the way, we got to remind people, it's not just for 4 years. She could be there for 8 years. We could have 8 more years of this. We always say you can't sustain 4 more of it. Imagine 8. That would be a complete disaster for the entire world.
New York Times poll, 61% of likely voters believe the next president should represent a major change from the Biden-Harris administration. Okay. Only 25% believe that Harris represents that change. Of course, she doesn't represent that change. She's in the she's the Biden-Harris thing that we need to change from. But only 25% believe, and 74% of Americans are very concerned about the prices of food and consumer products. Okay, like that's New York Times poll. So all of that obviously points to Trump. I want to talk to you about advertising. I remember there was a lot was said after 2016 in the postmortem. How could he possibly have won? About the online advertising that the Trump campaign did. A lot of A/B testing with different Facebook ads and a lot of that, and how successful that was. What is the strategy in these last? I consider this a last push. People are voting here soon. What is the strategy? TV, internet, proportion of each? What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, you're right. In 2016, we really pulled the rug out from under Hillary Clinton. They didn't see it coming. I think she had somewhere in the neighborhood of 6,900 online ads, and I think we had 5.2 million. So, I mean, not even close at all. Not even the same window. But yeah, it's highly important that we make sure that we're reaching out to our likely voters out there, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And of course, you have to do the traditional TV ad buys, and I think people sometimes get nervous. A lot of our voters, we know which channels they're watching. And we're going to have to reach out to other channels as well. So just because you're not seeing a ton of Trump ads on your TV, don't panic. We're going state by state, and we're actually engaging in local media, which I think is actually highly powerful and maybe more effective than doing big cable ad buys. We will do that as well. But, the digital is really key here. And I think whenever you look at where this country is and really where the world is right now, in terms of how they get their information, most people are online, and we have an ability via an incredible digital operation to target people and very specifically target people. And we know what you like. And, we all hear, we'll talk to a friend about something, about oranges. And the next thing I know, I'm on Instagram and there's ads for like oranges coming up. It's terrifying. Yeah. But we use that to our advantage, and that's good. And that allows us to reach out to people and hit them with things that's going to matter to them. And so we're going to continue to do that in this big push. And unlike Kamala Harris's team, we didn't have to blow a ton of money in the past 50 days because they had to, of course, try to sell her to America as some new shining star, although she's been there dragging things down for 3.5 years. We've been able to save our money, and we now have that in our war chest. And now is the time, to your point, in this home stretch, because that's exactly what we're in, that we use it, that we roll it out, that we target people. And this is really going to be a turnout election. We also have to get our low propensity voters, people who haven't voted maybe in the last several election cycles out. And you all know them, anybody listening right now, if you know people like this who are Republican voters, lean conservative, get them out to vote. We have to make it too big to rig. We have to swamp the vote. We have to encourage people to vote early, and that's exactly what we're going to continue to do, for the home stretch here, because nothing's more important. If we get all of our voters out, Donald Trump will win on November 5th, and let's put this chapter with the idea of Kamala Harris as president to bed. And by the way, just one more thing. We were just talking about the younger women or the unmarried women in this country. The thing they tried to sell us in 2016 with Hillary Clinton was this is a historic figure. This could be the first female president of the United States. Shouldn't every woman want that? I want every woman out there to think about the embarrassment you've already felt with Kamala Harris as your vice president, as the first female vice president of the United States. I know I have. My gosh, on the world stage, the laughing, the giggles, the word salads, all of those things. Imagine this is our first president of the United States. A woman will be president one day. I promise you that. Shouldn't we all want a woman qualified to do this job who can handle this position and makes us as women, as our entire gender, look great? It isn't Kamala Harris. It wasn't Hillary Clinton. She's out there somewhere, but don't fall in that trap. We're going to have to talk to people about that as well.
Yeah, this is not the historic figure you're looking for. Where would you like to send people, Lara Trump?
Well, I want to send everybody to swampthevoteusa.com. That is where you can go and you can send anybody to find out your current voter registration status. Some people don't know. Am I registered to vote? Did I do it when I went and got my license renewed? What have you? Swampthevoteusa.com. We have everything you need to find out if you're registered, and in your state when mail-in vote is due in, when early voting starts and ends, and where you can find your local voting precinct. So you are prepared. Send it to your friends and family. Get a plan together. Make sure you're ready to go. Go out and vote early, and then encourage everybody to do the exact same thing, swampthevoteusa.com. And, of course, if anybody wants to donate, I think we're at 62 days of $1 million low-dollar donations for the Trump campaign. It's donaldjtrump.com is the website if you want to donate. We would love to have the support, and we are so proud of our online fundraising. Thank you very much.